fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Hello everyone and welcome to Sebring International Raceway for what is round 1 of the Season 2 2022 VRS GT Sprint Series live from SimSpeed on Facebook, Twitch and YouTube. It is an absolute honour to bring this series back thanks to our friends at VRS. My name is Bradley Wingard. I am joined by Jason Fewens on commentary and Jay Kennedy on production as always. Welcome Jason, it's a pleasure to have you here and I'm very much looking forward to the racing tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited to be here, popping my VRS cherry tonight, so it'll be new for me as well, something different to call, a little bit out of my normal foray, but definitely looking forward to the challenge and see what the racing's going to bring. Yeah,
absolutely will. GT Racing and Sebring name a more iconic duo. We are in virtual Florida around this 6.02 kilometer circuit, and it is anything but simple. That track map looks pretty interesting. It's a pretty flat track, but anyone who has driven it knows how flat it actually isn't. And of course, this track has gone under a lot of changes since its inception. This is probably, I think, the shortest layout of every layout that has been run around here. And 17 corners, turn 1 and 17, obviously the most difficult in my opinion. And Jason, your thoughts on what is a very historic track?
Yeah, a lot of history here over the years, dates back a long, long way, but as far as tonight goes, there's going to be plenty of close racing. This track always generates some really good close racing. Car setup's going to be absolutely critical because, like you mentioned earlier, the bumps and the way that can catch some of these drivers out can be really, really untoward. So we should have some really good racing on our hands. We've got a good quality field, so we are in for a good night.
Yeah, we absolutely should be, because we are heading into dark, which is very typical of Sebring on iRacing, and it's a fantastic combo. Of course, the 12-hour ran last week in real life and coming up in the sim finishes in the dark as well. So you can see the bumps as we follow Guillaume Dendine round Sunset Bend, turn 17, and car just absolutely launching over those bumps, and it's a very difficult start to your lap. 157.9 for his first lap is not too bad, puts him 14th at the moment so far on pole. Nuno Enriquez with a 156.4 rounded up, 0.8 of a second faster than James Scott, the outer striver, and we just see Pat Richter go to second, 6/10 of a second behind Enriquez, and this field is stacking up to be a very close field.
Yeah, with that Florida sunset in the background really makes for some picturesque racing, and of course all the action will be focused on the cars on track, with everything from Mercedes through to Lamborghinis and lots in between. So plenty to call here tonight. This Audi on board here going around to complete his first flying lap at the moment, second flying lap at the moment I think it might be. So we'll see very quickly what his time's going to be. Looks like he might be on time for a relatively quick lap as he makes his way through the final corner now. Round onto the straight, lines are up, puts foot to the floor. Not going to be pole, but it's not far off it.
Yeah, 157.44. He does improve. He's up to 8th now. So, 5th, sorry, was 8th. Big improvement there. And being on the inside going into turn 1 is exactly where you want to be. Marcus A. Watson in the Lamborghini now. A lot of, well, every car seems to be a mid-engine car. Lamborghini and Audi running supreme, with a handful of Ferraris as well in the mix. 157.5 will take him up into 7th place. So moving up the order with a minute 16 left on the clock. Tom Swartz now currently 17th with a 58 flat. I don't quite think that that's relative for him, and he matches his time. So slight improvement for Tom Schwartz, and 60 seconds left. Pat Richter taking the initial D line around turn 17, and he's going to have to settle for second place now.
Yeah, we've still got a couple of cars out on the track doing their second and final qualifying lap. We are on board with Ivo Costa here at the moment. So he has put in a lap time inside the top 5 at the moment. He's currently sitting 4th. So he'll be looking to improve that and start potentially on the front row of the grid. So critical he gets a good run out of here, makes that run down the back straight and set himself up through the final corner for a quick squirt down to the final checkered line to complete the lap. He's still got 20 seconds to do it, so he might just sneak across the line before the checkered flag comes out. Probably time this down to a perfection.
Yeah, 13 seconds heading under the bridge should be enough to get that lap finished. And it's going to be a very interesting race. Fuel around here will last about 15 laps, 40-minute race as always in this series. So plenty of window for these guys to pit and make their mandatory stop just for fuel, no tyres. But this is how the grid stacks up. Nuno Enriquez on pole position by 0.5 of a second. Pat Richter shares that front row with him. James Scott and Ivo Costa on row 2. Dorian DeLange and Miron Makiv in 5th and 6th. Marcus Watson and Henry Koppinen in 6th and 7th. Dennis Brizik and Ethan Mitchell 9th and 10th, with Jacob Togg and Max Tilley. That's a name that we have not seen in quite a while on SimSpeed TV, but great to see Tilley back sharing row 2 with Jacob Todd.
Yeah, Mauro Senici and Walter Asberg off row number 7 tonight. Oscar, I don't know, Brad, you're going to have to help me there. Throw you under the bus. Oscar car number 21 off row number 8. Yeah, there we go. Beside him, you'll find car number 10 of Dendine off row number 8. Tom Schwartz and Marcus Grog off row number 9 tonight as they make their way back through the field. Marcus Hinks and Lars Meyer off row 10 tonight. Making their way down the list, Jason Muscat and Chris Chatterton round out row number 11 with Alejandro Rico and Stephen Place filling at row number 12.
That is our 24 grid for today. 30 seconds left on the start clock, and then we have a full formation lap around Sebring International Raceway. We are looking at about 21 laps of racing. We'll see how that pans out over the course of the race, if we do get the 21 or if it drops to 20, but that leaves about 5 laps worth of pit window, which is pretty generous. Some races we've had a bit more around those shorter tracks, but of course being 6 kilometers around here, it's much harder to get that extra lap, and the pace car will pull away slowly. It's an all Lamborghini front row, and highest Ferrari 8th place with highest Audi in 3rd. So close field today, and this is going to be a fantastic start of the race. It's the run into turn 1, very bumpy like we've said, so getting around there is going to make or break these races. And if you're someone like Ethan Mitchell or Max Tilley in 10th or 12th, you're not quite where you want to be, and it's going to be very busy for them on that opening lap.
Yeah, a lot of drivers will be driving with their elbows out, making sure they get themselves in a good position off to a good start, but we are in for a 40-minute race like you mentioned here tonight, so plenty of time to get the job done. A few passing opportunities around this track, so you've got to be selective about where you do it, but the passing opportunities definitely are there. But particularly in these opening laps, as you make your way through this section, it's quite narrow. Lots of left-right twist-back corners, so holding your nerve and sticking to your guns can either work one of two ways. It can either work in your favour, or it can put you in trouble real early in the race.
Yeah, definitely can. And this run round Big Bend down into the hairpin is one of those prime overtaking parts of the track, but the chicane on the exit of the hairpin means if you're on the outside, the track comes back to you a little bit. And then the chicane through 8 and 9 of Fangio is there waiting for you. So turns 1s, 3, 5, 7, 10 if you're brave. Tower turn at turn 13, not the greatest passing opportunity. Then into Le Mans and of course Sunset Bend, all relatively good passing opportunities around here, some more than others, but like you said, so many passing opportunities here, and that's why people love this racetrack. It's one of the greatest racetracks in the world. Even if it is as flat as a pancake, it always has more to it than meets the eye and throws up some very interesting and often controversial races.
Yeah, it'll be interesting tonight just to see how these drivers attack this being round one. It is going to be a long season, and we'll cover it here on SimSpeed TV for you on Monday nights as the season progresses. But a lot of these drivers will be looking at the long game, no doubt. They're here for the whole 12 weeks, and got to play this one smart. You can't win it. Can't win the series on the first week.
No, you definitely can't. And Reese and I called, I think that was season 4 of the 2021 VRS GT series, and that was fantastic racing. And it's fantastic to be back because these cars, GT3 cars, are some of the best race cars in the world. The racing is always close. The manufacturer's spread is usually pretty good, and it always throws up something different every week. And you can't have a boring GT3 race, especially around here. So you said you can't win it in the first race. You can put on a good show and you can easily lose it in the first race. But these guys getting ready now, coming down Almond Straight towards Sunset Bend. No doubt Enriquez and Richter will cough from the safety car just a little bit, give them a bit more of a running start after they get round turn 17. Still no space yet. Waiting patiently is Enriquez. You don't really want to accelerate over those bumps. Pace car pulls away now into the pit lane. Still holding speed. Still holding speed. He's going very late and then he goes. Enriquez is away. We are green for VRS GT Sprint in 2022 Season 2. 2x2 for James Scott and Eva Costa and most of the pack, but Enriquez is away nice and cleanly. Now we look into turn 1, make sure there's no incidents. So far so good. Everyone getting through there clean. Got to watch that. Oh, see someone off in the gravel, but everyone managing to make it to turn 3 relatively unscathed. Bit of contact further back though. I missed who that was. I think that was Mario Sanchini getting to the side of Dandy, and round Big Bend now. So far we're clean. This is the big breaking point. Just open the race, and this is where we can see those big shunts happen. But everyone so far being pretty patient.
Yeah, a bit of door-to-door action there on the opening lap, which we predicted, but everybody has made it through unscathed with minimal damage. You can see a few lights flashing there in the pack, with drivers trying to get their message across that they're on the move and they're trying to make their way through to the front of the field. Big dive there from Henry Kopkin in his Ferrari there on the opening lap, so he's feeling very comfortable with the tyre temperature and just the capability of this Ferrari here at the moment. But he holds a position for now, but he's directly under attack again from the car behind. So makes his way through that section of the track now. He's got his eyes forward, focusing on the car in front. So easy position done there, and he is one step closer to the front of the field.
And some big movers so far this race, some in a good perspective and some in a not so other. We get a VRS Virtual Racing School replay on screen now, and this is the 14 of... Oh, that was that contact. I was looking for that earlier. And very unfortunate incident there. Like Marcus Gross, very heavily impacted coming around turn 10. Very easy looking entrance, but not so much when the corner decides to not work in your favor. And more side-by-side action now for Jacob Todd trying to work his way up through the back. Big movers so far. We have Walter Absinger down 6 spots, and more contact further up in the field. That was Jacob Todd, and Walter's just absolutely thrown it into the fence as well. So all the action decided to not really show up for lap 1, but it's kicking off in lap 2.
Yeah, a lot of drivers out there at the moment on their radio making their opinions heard. So it's going to be a long season for these guys here. If they start making enemies early, you want to try and work with the cars around you, particularly this early in the race. We have got another 35 odd minutes here to go, so long time to get. They need to settle down, work out, get themselves into a good rhythm around this circuit, and get a good feel of those that are driving around them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on board with Max Tilley now, very much a VRS GT Sprint regular. We covered him a few seasons ago, currently in 12th place, trying to work his way up through the field. He's gained one spot already, so that's a good start for Tilley, but not quite where we would really expect for him to be. Very strong in these cars in this series, so still holding strong. We look at the number 21 of Oscar Pujadas in his Ferrari, all over the back of Mark Hinks in his Lamborghini, coming down the Allman Straight to finish lap 2, and Walter Absenja, after his early contact and then slam into the wall after turn 1, has retired from this race. He is our first retirement out of our 24 drivers, but very different race start. It's kind of been clean, but also we've had a couple of big moments come out of nowhere at the same time. As you watch James Scott attacking the rear end of Richter's Lamborghini through turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, he's looking back through the field. Looks like quite a few of the drivers have got themselves now in a comfortable position. So well and truly, tyres are up to temperature now, and they should be getting a good feel for the car underneath them. But has got dark here rather quick here in Florida this evening, so it wasn't that long ago that the sun was setting, and already you can see everyone relying on those lights around the place now. So it's some drivers may have their mirrors turned off so they can't see those lights darting around behind them, which can be a distraction. But either way, you'll be keeping an eye on those around you, because there's not a lot of opportunity here, particularly in the narrow sections, to go 2x2 wide. So if someone has a dive under brakes or challenges you, you've really got to weigh up the pros and cons to see whether it's worth pushing the issue so early in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, as well as Walter Absenga, we've just had 3 cars coming to the pits with Meatball flags. Lars Meyer, Tom Schwartz and Stephen Place not having the run that they really wanted to have, so hopefully we'll see them back out on track. But we know how fragile these GT3 cars can be, as we see cones getting absolutely scattered around turn 15 before this long straight. Perfect drafting opportunity. Out of getting in the grass, they're not really where you want to be. That's Ethan Mitchell having a bit of a run wide in 8th position. We're on board with Jacob Todd behind him, and you can see how strong that draft train is down the main straight and how much of a run you get through turn 17. Is Todd really carrying that speed mid-quarter, but just doesn't have the traction on exit to make an attack into turn 1. So Ethan Mitchell, for now, running safely in 8th position.
Yeah, with the beauty with the cars being the way they are, a single file, there's a lot of draft happening, so there is a potential for the double draft there to work if you get a good run. But at the moment, a lot of these drivers sitting in a fairly comfortable position, just following the leader at the moment. If they get a run, they'll stick a nose down the inside and try and make it stick, but we jump on board now here and get a good run through that big bend corner down into the hairpin, one of those critical overtaking opportunities, but too far back at this stage to make anything stick.
Yeah, the run out of this hairpin through these little S-bends, I guess, through Ascari and up in towards turn 10 and 11 through Collier into Tower Corner can really help you set up a run through Bishop in turn 14. But never mind that, Jacob Todd's gone early up the inside of turn 10. They don't make contact, although they were very close, and into Tower Corner is not really somewhere where you go for a move unless you really got some big cojones with you. And now that you have to set up that run through turn 14 to double left-hander of Bishop into turn 15 and then 16 at Le Mans. Turn 15 is a passing opportunity if you're close enough, but Jacob Todd is getting very impatient now, but still sitting pretty. And this run through turn 16 is going to be so crucial if he wants to make this move stick this lap now.
So we see there in the background just briefly car number 2 facing the wrong way. Ooh. Trying to do a flick turn but not quite getting it done there, taking 2 opportunities to get the car facing the right direction. Very lucky there was a break in the traffic there at the moment, so he has got that car facing it the right way again, and he's back underway. But it's a little bit dark in that part of the track to see whether any damage has actually affected him. So giving the steering wheel a bit of a wiggle, trying to get a feel for the car underneath him again. So we jump on board with the VRS replay now to see exactly how that all unfolded. Just a little bit of curb on the inside there, unsettled the car, ever so slightly kissing those tyres on the right-hand side. So no harm, no foul, just a little bit of track position loss. So he will have his head down now to try and regain some of those positions that he just gave away. But most importantly, car still in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely is. He's down 13 spots now. He does have good pace, ignoring that last lap spin. So Tilley now on the attack, going down to the hairpin. Can he get it stopped in time? Yes, he can. That was a very well executed move on Dennis Brizik. I should have looked that up before I guessed. The Dutchman. Tilley, of course, is a very proud Canadian, so running the red and white it's track racer, but we'll say it's Canadian track racer, red and white Lamborghini, and that puts him up into 9th position now. So up 3 spots from the start. It's a very good run from Tilley. So next position for him, Ethan Mitchell, 1.1 seconds up the road. Jacob Todd has finally got past him.
So we've looked a bit further up the field at the moment. Battle for second at the moment is between our drivers James Scott and Pat Richter, as it has been for most of the race so far, separated by a mere 2.5 tenths a second. So Scott well and truly in the draft of his Lamborghini counterpart in front of him, unable to be close enough to make the move stick through that final corner. But Richter definitely aware of Scott's presence right behind him, tucked underneath the rear wing.
They've got a few battle packs going at the moment. James Scott turning in a lot earlier for turn 1 than Pat Richter did. Eva Costa and Mira McKeeve battling for 4th place just behind on screen now. And then that battle pack for 6th, 7th and 8th of Coppin and Todd and Mitchell, with Tilley closing in ever so slightly each lap. But Enriquez 1.6 seconds up the road from that battle for second that we were just watching. Fastest lap of the race, seeming pretty unchallenged so far, and a quiet race is a good race in a field like this, but a lot of those drivers unfortunately don't quite have that luxury.
Yeah, we're 29 minutes remaining of this 40-minute race, so we're only just 10 minutes away into it so far. Plenty of action on track so far, but we just have a jump on board here with that little battle for second and third still ongoing. So Scott doing everything he can to try and force Pat Richter into an error, but Richter, the steady old hand that he is, sticking to his guns. He's not too phased, and it's going to take quite a trick from Scott there to actually unsettle Richter. So things are up the front. Look like they've checked out as far as the leader goes. So the battle for the second spot on the podium here at the moment. As you can see, the different lines taken through at the S's here between these two drivers. So this is where all the action is unfolding at the moment, second and third, with another battle pack 4th and 5th behind.
Yeah, of course, Lamborghini and Audi, basically the same car minus how they look. Lamborghini slightly newer to iRacing, but underneath they are pretty much the same bread and butter. But a lot of people think the Lamborghini is slightly easier to drive, and I don't know, they both sound fantastic and they look fantastic as well. So James Scott's really putting the pressure on Richter through turn 17 and turn 1. First pitter in is Dennis. I missed who that was. Max Tilley pitting nice and early to get some fresh air and some new fuel. Apparently this is why he's pitting. VRS replay. Slowdown penalty. So I'm thinking that was for Lamar. Cutting a bit too much of that inside curb will give you a slowdown. So lost a lot of track position because of that, because that is a very awful place to get a slowdown penalty. So I guess might as well slap a pit stop on top of that and sort of minimize the damage, I guess, from the slowdown penalty. He has rejoined in 20th position last of our running cars, and he's a long way off that lead, the lead pack and the pack he was in, and that's not ideal. That looks like
That was a battle for
that?
6th and 7th. That would look like car number 19, Henry Coppinen, and Jacob Todd there coming together. So making his way back on the track. Again, very light contact, but facing the wrong way and losing a bucket load of track time. So VRS replay there giving us a good indication of how that all came to be.
all clear through the hairpin, which is where I thought it probably would have happened. So that would have happened up at turn 10. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, going into the tower, I think. Tower corner.
No, it's late move for Todd, and yeah, just that little bit of rear quarter contact, and Ethan Mitchell getting through cleanly enough, managing to avoid Todd and Coppinen, but Coppinen now from 6th is right down in 16th position, so it'd be interesting to see if he decides to pit as well from his very unfortunate position and try and minimize time loss, but he does stay out. So 25 and just under 26 minutes to go. We're on lap 8, so these guys are about halfway through their scheduled stint length, and end of lap 5 will pretty much take you to the end of lap 6, but James Scott still 0.3 of a second behind Pat Richter for second position.
Yeah, a lot of respect being shown between these two drivers because they've literally had just a couple of tenths between them for pretty much almost since the end of the first lap. So these drivers here, a lot of confidence in each other and what they're capable of. But more importantly, they seem to have dropped the little group of cars behind them as well. So even though they are potentially battling for a podium position, they've got good speed. They're actually pulling away from the little group that was battling for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, it's James Scott using that draft train just to stay with Pat Richter without having to push the car too much. Like you said, able to pull away from Ivo Costa and Miron McKeeve in 4th and 5th position. They're not battling either, trying to keep up, but then a massive gap back to Ethan Mitchell and Jacob Todd for 6th and 7th. So Enriquez 1.8 seconds up the road. Then Pat Richter and James Scott have a little bit of breathing space behind them. Costa and McKeeve having a bit of breathing space as well. But then all pandemonium from 6th down to about 13th spot, covered by one straight pretty much. So a few seconds still, but they're all within striking distance of one another. There's no massive gaps forming between that mid-pack.
Yeah, one little mistake in the mid-pack could have easily put you inside or outside the top 10 depending on where that mistake happens. But plenty of draft opportunity there for those drivers. And while we see a lot of drivers at the moment following each other, not necessarily making the move, trying to get the job done, it will be benefiting the following driver because come pit stop time, it just might be enough time to save in that pit stop sequence where you're putting in a little bit less fuel and make the jump in the pits rather than do it on the track.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we've seen that time and time again in this and many other series where saving just a litre of fuel or 2 or 3 litres of fuel will give you a second quicker pit stop and no tyre changes needed. So it is all about the fuel. And if you're James Scott right now and you're able to stick with Pat Richter, and given how many heavy braking zones we have around this track, you can do massive lifts and coasts into at least half the corners around here to really save that fuel without losing any time. So if you're on a massive fuel save down the main straight into turn 7, turn 10, even Tower Corner at turn 13, that's all going to add up, and that's going to save you even 2 seconds in a pit stop, puts him at the lead of this race or alongside Enriquez fighting for it. So huge implications for that now, and you see a pass for second place, which is, I don't know if that's a bit of gamesmanship. Like James Scott has saved a bit of fuel. Now Pat Richter's going to save some fuel behind him, and maybe they'll both work together to try and get the jump on Enriquez and Firth. But if they do, then fair play to both of them because that's a brilliant strategy.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a strategic play there from Richter. Just pulled off the racing line, let Scott take the fast line, the natural line down the straight, and then Richter has tucked back in underneath Scott's rear wing now. So it really probably is a smart move. Enriquez is at 2.5 seconds out the road, so you'd think he is potentially using more fuel than these two chasing drivers behind him. So we'll see come pit stop time, which I wouldn't imagine is going to be too far away. I suggest a lot of these drivers are probably going to try and split the race into two as we approach the halfway point of this 40-minute session. So we'll just wait and see how these cards play out, but definitely gamesmanship playing a big part early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely is, and we saw the onboard then of Pat Richter. That wasn't a slowdown because he missed the apex for Lamar Corner turn 16. Not substantially, but by enough, and nothing came up on my timing to suggest that he had a slowdown either. So I think that's definitely a strategic move for him and these guys working together really well. And Rank has, like you said, 2.5 seconds is not a massive margin, but it's comfortable enough. And if these guys do save enough fuel, I think James Scott is in a better position out of the two of them, and that could have massive implications for this race result come, lap 17 or 18 once everyone has cycled through.
So from our 24 starters, we still have 20 drivers out there on the track at the moment, all on the lead lap. So there's just over 40 odd seconds separating first to last on track at the moment. So we shouldn't see lap traffic becoming a factor this early in the race. But it might be something to consider once the pit sequences take effect, because some guys will be diving into the pits early, and particularly if you're at the back of the field, you could come out amongst the leaders.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And of course, Max Tilley, the Quebec French-Canadian, pitted 3 laps ago, which he's our last place car on track at the moment. We see him on screen now. He is in 20th position, so no pits from him for the rest of the race, so he will be safe from being lapped, even though he is 46 seconds behind Enriquez in first position, but his lap times aren't too bad. He's got pace for about 7th position, maybe 6th position, so if he can minimize that time lost from the slowdown that he had a few laps to go, he'll be in a very good position. Pit times are about 35 seconds, so anyone from Jacob Todd, who's about 13 seconds off the lead, is within striking distance of Max Tilley once those pit cycles coming through. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. But for now, battles on track are our big focus, and we are on board with Miran McKeeve and Ivo Costa again, who haven't really given each other much breathing space for the entirety of this race so far.
No, and I think once it's going to be a matter of who's going to blink first. Once one of these drivers dives into pits, I think we're going to see particularly those amongst the top 5 or 6 either follow suit the following lap, or if they have got their wits about them and they are the following car, they'll dive into the car in front. So it's important to keep an eye on those cars in front. Just keep them within your visual sights, particularly as you come through that last corner, because the pit entry is quite early as you exit that last corner on the right hand side. So if you haven't got your wits about you, you can quickly duck past it and get caught off guard.
Yeah, you absolutely can. It's a pretty simple pit lane in general, like you said, but given how bumpy turn 17 is, you have to really set that up early, because the amount of speed you have to carry through turn 17 to not lose too much time is so contradictory to what you need to actually get to the apex and stick to the apex to get into pit entry. And we just saw I think that was who was that? Kopanen, I believe, running very narrowly through turn 1, or Oscar Pajardis, I believe, maybe very narrow through turn 1, nearly hitting that inside wall in his Ferrari. But there's more space than people realize at the apex of turn 1, and if you miss it by an inch, you end up hitting the exit curve by about 4 feet. by the time you get there. So got to really maximize that turning through turn 1, and it's a very wide corner, but like we've said time and time again, oh so bumpy.
Yeah, and of course a lot of these drivers driving on the left-hand side of the car, and there is that little kink there which you need to use all of the track to open up that turn 1. So if you misjudge that ever so slightly and clip that wall going into turn 1 on the right-hand side, it can be pretty detrimental for your car, because I am speaking from experience.
Yeah, it's a very solid concrete on the outside. Well, yes, it's the inside of pit lane, outside of the racing surface. But we ride on board with Miron McKeeve in 5th position, up 1 spot from his start. Not many massive movers so far in this race, removing pit cycles. Chris Chatterton and Jason Muscat are both up 8 and 6 spots respectively. Mark Hinks up 8 as well, so they're our biggest movers of the race, although Henry Koppinen down 9 position, probably not really the kind of big mover he wants to be, but nonetheless, himself as Marcus Watson both down 9 positions, so they started near each other. And as I say that, I think that's Watson in the pits, and on Alessandro Riccio in behind him as well from 19th position. So Max Tilley passing both of them down the main straight now.
Yeah, Tilley has had quite good speed, and he was actually pulling about 1.4 seconds quicker than the cars that were in front of him. So that early pit stop playing dividend, and as on top of the good speed that he naturally has. So he can definitely clear those 2 cars now and focus on putting in some good, clean, consistent laps, because this race just might come back to him if he manages to find some clear track and race his own race, and he could find himself back in a lucrative position at the drop of the flag.
Yeah, well, he had a faster stop than both Riccio and Watson over the course of their pit stops by 1 and 2 seconds respectively. He is 34 seconds behind Jacob Todd in 6th position, and 35, 36 and 37 second stops for our 3 pitters in that order puts him about a second up the road if their pit stops are the same or slower. So be interesting to see how that one plays out. We've got 2.5 laps until pit stops have to be done, but as we say that, Enriquez is in from the lead of this race, and Miriam McKeeve from 5th place pits shortly behind him. So far, no one else. Never mind that. We have a hive of activity on pit lane now. Everyone has decided now is the time to come in.
Yeah, that last corner, I think you said turn 17, is very, very difficult if you're committed to the racing line early on in that corner. Like you said, it's so bumpy, it's hard to get off that racing line and make that dive into the pit lane. There's a couple of concrete barriers there at the pit entry which can make life pretty race ending if you get it all sorts of wrong. So a lot of those drivers there managed to make their way through without too much drama. So I suggest this is all part of their pit strategy. They planned on coming in, because none of them looked like they were too out of shape. Max Tilley now, so he's gone from literally in the matter of a couple of laps from 20th up to 12th. So he is knocking on the door of a top 10 result, and with a lot of cars, a handful of cars still on track that haven't pitted in front of him, he's only got some more positions to gain.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He is currently 4th of the cars that have pitted, so very good strategy turn for Max Tilley. It was always just going to be a matter of time until he started gaining those positions. James Scott and Pat Richter now lead this race, and they've still got another lap after this one. This is lap 14. Lap 15 is where you can stretch the fuel. They might be able to get 16 laps if the fuel saving was as good as we're suspecting that it was. So we'll have to find out to see if they go and try and cut off that undercut from Enriquez. Wait patiently, and they are both pitting in now. So this is crunch time. See how much fuel they have saved, and if it's worth it. And Eva Costa coming in behind as well. Jacob Todd comes into the pits behind them. So 4 cars left to pit so far, make that 3. And this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, the overcut there is the plan of attack for both Scott and Richter, handing over the lead of the race back now to Enriquez as he makes his way down past the pit exit. There is a couple of cars on the exit now. That looks like Scott and Richter. So what was a 2.5 second gap for Enriquez before the pit sequence has probably extended that just a little bit. So Scott on our screen now in the car number 4. He is 3.2 seconds behind the leader, so the undercut working for Enriquez there. But more importantly, positions haven't necessarily changed. It's just given Enriquez a bit more breathing space on the last sector of this race.
And funnily enough, both Scott and Richter had 1 second slower pit stops than Enriquez did. Max Tilley nerve started 12th, sorry, currently in 8th, so he has gained quite a bit of time through that pit sequence, given that he had that slowdown on his in-lap, and he is in a very good position, all things considered. But we're right on board with Mauro Senchini now in the number 23 Audi, who is in 14th position and 13th, 12th position. Even if I could read the right timing screen, that would be very, very helpful. 10.5 minutes to go, so he's slowly gained a couple of positions from his starting spot, so well driven by him. It's a lot of people to cover, a lot of big movers, and sometimes those who only move a position or 2 positions don't get squat. But great to see Mauro Senchini moving up the field nonetheless, and all pit stops have been cycled through now, and our definitive biggest leader up until now is the number 10 of Julian Demdine, up 6 spots. Our biggest losers were the 19 of, I've lost it, Henry Copenhagen, after his spin early on, has dropped 11 spots, so very unfortunate for him. But that's unfortunately just how racing goes sometimes.
Yeah, that was after that early contact with Jacob Todd, where he found himself on the grass facing the wrong way. So not really indicative of his true track speed, but he is just trying to make the best of a disappointing start to the season. So qualified 8th, so he's definitely had top 10 pace. So he'll be focused to come back at round 2, potentially just scrape by and get any points that he can out of this race, and come back next week bigger, stronger, better, and try and capitalise on a good result next week.
Yeah, and of course, being an official series, everyone gets 4 dropped rounds, so best 8 rounds count towards the championship, which is ever so generous of iRacing for giving us 4 dropped rounds every 12-week season. If this was Formula 1, then I think if you're a Red Bull driver, you wouldn't sweat so much after this morning's action, but 4 drop rounds, very helpful. Of course, we go to Circuit Zolder next week. More on that a little bit later, because the action on screen, James Scott and Pat Richter, no more fuel saving for them. They are absolute 100% attack now.
Yeah, it looks like Scott's just made himself a little bit of breathing room from Richter. That's separated by about 0.4 of a second. It's probably almost as big as the gap has been that we've seen during the whole race this evening. So get a little bit of breathing room there at the moment, but all that really takes is some draft down the back straight and on this front straight here, and Richter will be sniffing at the back of Scott's Audi in no time.
Yeah, and of course we've seen a couple of drivers come unstuck through Le Mans corner, either spinning out, getting slowdowns. It's a lot easier to do than you expect, because you can jump some of those cars a lot more, curbs a lot more than you think. But there's that fine narrow of jumping it enough to get the speed, but not getting the slowdown. And it's so easy to get that slowdown, and through the bumps of turn 17 and turn 1, it's so easy for the car to come unstuck. But so far, touching wood for James Scott and Pat Richter, that hasn't been their reality so far in this race. We have 7 minutes and 20 seconds to go. We are on lap 17 of, I think we're still seeing 21 laps of racing, so this is going full distance for these drivers tonight with the pure pace of Enriquez out in front, out to 4.2 seconds now.
Yeah, it looks pretty comfortable at the moment, so he has got only 6.5, 7 minutes remaining. Hasn't put a foot wrong from the moment the lights went green, so you wouldn't expect him to do anything now. Last thing I want to do is throw the commentator's curse at him on the opening round, so we won't talk about that anymore, but definitely a little bit of breathing room so he doesn't have to worry about watching his mirrors. He's just got to keep his eyes on forward, make sure it hits each and every apex, doesn't miss any braking markers, and he should be in for what is potentially a perfect start to his season.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've got plenty of battle packs through the field. This is our closest one, though. We do have a battle pack for 10th position, led by Julian Dendian in his Martini Audi. So 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, all pretty close together. 18th and 19th are Marcus Gross and Henrik Koponen battling out for their positions as well. But this battle for the tail end of the podium is the biggest one. We see that battle pack for 10th back now, and not much separating them, but oh, is that a slowdown? I think that is for Mauro Sancini getting a slowdown round turn 16, and that's all it takes is a little bit too wide or too narrow through Le Mans corner and easy slowdown on arguably the longest straight on the circuit.
Yeah, definitely where you don't want to take it is on one of the straights. If you're on a twisty part of the track, you can probably minimise the damage there, but on a straight, you've really just got to roll off the throttle, serve your medicine, or serve your penalty, take your medicine, and in doing so with the cars as close as they have been in that little battle pack, you're potentially going to lose a couple of positions, but easily done around here. It's quite dark around this circuit. The lighting isn't necessarily the best from the driver's cockpit point of view, so it's very easy to miss a braking marker or just run that half car width wide, and as we just seen, the results can be not devastating, but certainly not what you want to see so late in the race.
Yeah, if you're, Max Tilley, if you get a slowdown on lap 6 or 7 and then you have your pit stop up your sleeve, you can use that to his advantage like we saw. But yeah, lap 18 of a 21 lap race is, or lap 17 it would have been, is less than ideal. And see this battle pack again going through turn 16 unscathed, so only 3 more trips through there, both of them not wanting that credit slowdown penalty, but they have a massive gap behind, so even if they do, there'll only be 1 position loss, not 5 or 6 or 7 as it could be if you were someone like Jacob Todd or anyone from 10th position back with that field so close. But Pat Richter, very quick run through turn 17. James Scott going slightly defensive, and Richter not quite close enough for a move around turn 1, but still 3 laps to go. Plenty of overtaking spots as he looks wide into turn 4, or turn 3 rather, doesn't make anything of it. Run out of turn 5 down around Big Ben into turn 7 could be crucial for his race though.
Yeah, we are getting down to the nitty-gritty of the final part of the race. So if you really want to set yourselves up for a strong finish here, now's the time where you probably need to drive with your elbows out again. It's time to make your intentions felt, and if you can pressurise one or a couple of the cars around you, there is the potential there to gain a couple of easy positions late in the race.
On the onboard of Richter on the right and rear view of Scott on the left, this is our closest fight on track. 3 minutes to go, just under now 2 laps after this one, and it is all of 0.2 of a second from Scott to Richter. This has been a persistent battle all race long. Markiv and Costa still having their fight for 4th and 5th. That is Markiv leading that battle pack now, but James Scott throwing up all sorts of dust to try and throw Richter off, and ground turn 16 pretty smooth on the wide run round, that slingshot of Le Mans compared to the bumpy nature of the old airfield through turn 17 and turn 1. Again, this is Sunset Bend for the 19th time. Narrow run, both drivers, and then to take it right out wide, not to clip that grass or the tie barrier on exit. We have 2 laps to go, 2 minutes to go, so a couple of seconds to spare for the leader to get across to get that extra lap in. No white flag yet, so that'll be penultimate lap now, and Richter not getting impatient but definitely getting racy and trying to set up that late move for second position.
Yeah, he's shown the speed early on that he has the car speed underneath him to sit comfortably in second. We see Max Tilley now diving into the pits again for his second time. So after serving that penalty in the pit stop quite early in the race, he has run himself short on fuel. Obviously being out on track by himself with no one to draft with hasn't helped that. Took the gamble, rolled the dice, but unfortunately tonight made the executive decision that if he didn't dive into the pits now, he just wasn't going to see the drop of that checkered flag. So bit of pill to swallow there tonight, but he has shown some great speed, and being a VRS regular here in the GT3 series, he will be back next week with vengeance, just to show that he is a contender for a strong points haul here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely not a driver that gives up easily. Neither is Pat Richter, still hounding the back of James Scott for second position. Fastest lap of the race last lap was Pat Richter. Henriquez had that fastest lap since lap 2, but Richter just pipping him by 4/100ths of a second to get fastest lap. 0.3 of a second faster than James Scott last lap by. We have 20 seconds to go as of now. Enriquez rounding turn 17 for the penultimate time, and slightly wider entrance on board with Pat Richter. White flag, there's Barney with his absolute quarterback of a right arm waving that white flag constantly on the surface, and this is Pat Richter's last set of attempts to make that move stick. No one else is as close on track. Looks wide again through turns 2 into turn 3, but it settles in through the S's of turn 4, round turn 5, late apex for both drivers, you would expect, or the curb on exit. I don't think he's quite close enough for a move down into the hairpin, but he's got that run through Fangio into turn 10, out of tail corner. James Scott weaving down the straight round Big Bend, just defending that inside line. Good run for both drivers through the S's. Enriquez has nothing to worry about for his attack. This is all about second and third. Through Fangio, turn 8 and turn 9 into turn 10. No move from Richter this time by, but he is very close to the back of James Scott's Audi. Exit is crucial around here into Tower Corner. Got to get that run up towards Bishop and Lamar. He's close. It's a little bit of curb on entry, not too much at the apex, otherwise that unsettles the car. This run through turn 14 of Bishop is going to be so crucial for that run into turn 17. So smooth so far. Gets a little bit of dust through turns 15. I don't think he's going to be close enough. It's 0.3 of a second around Lamar. It's going to be the mother of all runs down the main straight. We'll keep an eye on that in our periphery as James Scott weaves back and forwards. But this has been Enriquez's race from qualifying to the flag. He has been absolutely faultless. Round turn 17 for the final time. Takes an absolutely unchallenged victory in round 1 of the VRS GT Sprint on a Monday night. And James Scott, by the skin of his teeth, manages to hold on to second place, with Pat Richter finishing in third. And that was an absolutely fantastic finish by both of those drivers, and we couldn't have asked for anything better. We see 4th and 5th across the line now, Marion McKeeve and Ivo Costa. Jacob Todd not too far behind.
Yeah, some brilliant racing there. You can see on your screen the cars still crossing the line as the fireworks reach skyward. There's Ethan Mitchell, Dennis Briziak making up positions at 7 and 8 tonight. Dendon crossing the line in at 9th tonight, and Mauro Sancini rounding out your top 10. So a lot of these drivers there Starting off the season on a relatively good note there, car number 14 you can see on your screen, Marcus Gross just crossing the line there. He's a little bit further back in 18th, so he's dropped a couple from where he started at the drop of the flag, but still nonetheless points hold, and we have got another 11 rounds in this VRS GT Sprint Series, brought to you here on SimSpeed TV. So plenty of opportunities over the coming weeks for these drivers to get some airtime, get their names across, and provide everybody with some great racing.
Yeah, plenty of opportunities for some fantastic racing, but this is the results as they stand. 3 Lamborghinis, 7 Audis in the top 10. That's pretty concisive evidence of which car was the pick tonight. Enriquez, though, fastest in all sessions. Well, maybe not on pure lap speed, but definitely on pure race pace, takes the win by 4.6 seconds over James Scott, 5 tenths of a second ahead of Pat Richter. Mira McKeeve beats out Ivo Costa after their battle for most of the race for the top 5. Jacob Todd, Ethan Mitchell, Dennis Brenzik finishes 8th, Guillaume Dendine in 9th, and Mauro Sancini in 10th position.
If we look a bit further down the field, Doreen Delange off the P11 there tonight in the Audi. Mark Hinks there in a Lamborghini P12. Chris Chatterton in a Lamborghini P13. And we see the first of our Ferraris, Oscar Pujadas, 44 seconds off the pace back in P14. He's followed across the line with another Ferrari, Jason Muscat. And we are back into Lamborghini territory in P16 with Marcus Gross. Henry Coppin there after early contact in his Ferrari P17. Marcus Watson, Max Tillinov, and Alejandro Rico rounding out your top 20 tonight. I think they were the final finishes after a couple of DNFs. 21 Lars Meyer there, 19 laps down, so he will be classed as a non-finisher along with Walter Absinger, 20 laps down, Steve Place, 20 laps down, and Tom Schwartz, officially our first retiree this evening in his Audi, pulling up stumps quite early in the race.
Well, that's our action for tonight from Sebring International Raceway. Same time next week we go to Circuit Zolder in Belgium, one of my absolute favourite racetracks. Relatively unchanged from its original layout, but after some tragedy and safety changes, a few chicanes spice things up. We're on the Grand Prix layout, not the alternate layout, so slightly slower, but so much fun nonetheless. And you can catch us at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time on SimSpeed TV, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. As always, it was myself, Bradley Wingard, Jason Fewens alongside me. Thank you for joining me, and Jay Kennedy on production, putting up all those fantastic pictures. As always, we'll see you next Monday night at 9 o'clock on SimSpeed TV from Zolder for round 2 of the GT Sprint Series, thanks to VRS.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.